everyone. This is Build Series, and I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. And today, I'm sitting down with Dyllón Burnside. The triple threat plays Ricky on the hit FX series Pose, which spotlights New York's underground ball culture in the late 80s and 90s. Burnside plays Ricky, a charismatic dancer who's chasing his dreams when he comes face-to-face with a life-changing diagnosis and a new, unexpected friendship. Take a look.
It'll help with that hangover I'm sure you got. I hope you're hungry. There's a lot of food here. Some coffee. Take a couple of these. What?
You're still here.
Please put your hands together for Dyllón.
Thank you, thank you.
That smile is like even more captivating in person. Wow, so nice to meet you. I'm a huge fan of Pose, and this season has been emotional and dramatic. So last night's episode was sort of more of a lighter, fun one, and we got to see people connecting in new ways, and it was sort of we could take a deep breath. Did you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I mean, it was ladies at the beach in bathing suits and cute men saving lives, and like it was just like all the amazing things that you want to see after like all of the dark, heavy things that we've experienced this season.
Heavy things, but obviously very serious things. And your character has been involved, I think, in some of the most emotional storylines of the season. The first being that he is HIV positive. So can you take me through you as Dyllón when you read that that was going to be Ricky's status and how you felt about it?
Yeah, you know, as an actor, you at some point start to grow really attached to your character. You develop a lot of empathy for them, at least I do. And so when I first read it, I wasn't at all shocked that that was the direction the writers went, but I was really heartbroken for him and for the moment that he realizes it and the way that he finds out from the nurse and just kind of like everything that's been leading up to this moment for him. And it was really devastating for me to find out.
With that said, does it change how you carry yourself as Ricky? How did it change him as a person and how you portray him?
You know, I think that moving forward, it makes Ricky a lot more aware of the consequences of his actions. And so I think that in a certain way, he's forced to grow up in a way that he's never been forced to do before. This is going to be one of his greatest teachers. A lot of times our greatest struggles, the greatest tragedies in our lives become our greatest teachers. And I think that that's the case for Ricky. He's learning a lot through this process.
I think, too, the visibility of his story is so important. I think, you know, we still have new cases of HIV every day, and people kind of like to pretend like it's not a reality. And I think it's important to see a young Black man have to deal with this diagnosis and what it means for the rest of his life. Do you think that that's important for viewers to see?
Absolutely. You know, the CDC study showed that in 2017, a lot of the new cases of HIV occurred in men of color, and men of color who identify as gay or bisexual. And one of the most interesting things that I found in that study is that a large majority of those cases are occurring in southern states. And so people are not talking, what I think, you know, there are probably a lot of different things that are contributing to that. But one of the things that I think really contributes to that is the stigma that we still have in the South around same-gender loving men. And so people not wanting to come out, people not wanting to talk about it, about their sexuality, people not wanting to talk about their health and their status. And so I think this storyline in particular, where we see Ricky, someone having to go through this by himself, but is able to find support in a way that him developing this relationship with Pray Tell and having someone to whom he can be accountable to really helps him find a pathway to being healthy. And I think that when you don't have someone like that to talk to about things, you find unhealthy ways to cope with whatever it is you're going through. And so I hope that people that are watching the show take away, if there's anything, if you are positive and you are afraid to sort of disclose your status to someone, I hope you can find someone that you can speak to about it, that you can find solace and hope in someone out there. So yeah, especially for those in the South. I'm from the South. I know what kind of stigma exists there. So it's really sad what's going on.
Like you said, it's so important to find that community, and Ricky does do that. And one person that's really there for him is Pray Tell, who's an elder in the community and who is also HIV positive. And that relationship is one that I didn't even know I needed to see. Because they seem so like night and day, and you know, the age difference. But what is your take when you saw that these two men were going to come together and really kind of hold each other and support each other through this time?
You know, I didn't see it coming initially. You know, I when I first was reading episode 7, I was reading it very much from the standpoint of, you know, Pray Tell is really mentoring him. Pray Tell is being a father figure to him, and Ricky needs that. And so that's the way that I sort of played it. You know, obviously, I think Ricky is naturally a flirt, and that's just his way in the world. So, you know, he flirts with Pray Tell in episode 7 in the hospital, in the clinic. But that wasn't like anything other than just Ricky being Ricky. But I do think that the relationship that sort of happens as a result did feel like a very natural extension of the connection that was building between the two of them. You know, when two people are put in very harsh conditions and they have only each other to confide in, you know, Pray Tell tells Ricky in episode 8, I don't have anybody in the world who understands me except Blanca. Well, now he has Ricky too, and Ricky's looking for love. Ricky's looking to find someone to love him, and that's the same place that Pray Tell is in too. Pray Tell's lost several lovers, and so it may seem far-fetched and kind of out of the blue, but it also felt like a natural extension of their relationship.
Absolutely. And the love scene was profound in so many ways. First, it made history. It was the first time 2 Black gay men who were HIV positive were in a love scene on national TV, which is huge, in a moment that I think is going to really impact future generations. But I read that Billy Porter was actually really nervous about the vulnerability of that scene, and it was so honest that he felt like he couldn't even watch it. Did you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I was terrified, you know, for many reasons, but, you know, I've never done a sex scene before. And to do one with Billy, who, you know, is such an inspiration for me in my career, I was intimidated by that too. So, you know, he and I talked about it before we shot, and, you know, just kind of put all the cards on the table. Like, look, I said, I'm nervous as hell. And he was like, so am I. So he's like, child, we just gonna do this and, you know, make it happen. And I was like, all right, well, if anything comes up for you in the process, you let me know. And he said the same to me. And really, it was just a matter of like really tapping into the story and what was happening between these two characters. And it was very real, you know, what these characters were experiencing. So I think, you know, once the camera started rolling, that took over.
There's so many different things to take from it. And for me, it was just seeing Pray Tell being held and feeling love, especially after the previous episodes, and seeing everything that he had been through, and something that he had really closed off and kind of given up on. For me, that's why that scene was just so extra beautiful, that he's, even as an elder in the community, as he calls himself, like he realized he was still capable and like accepting of love.
Yeah, and he also needed someone where he needed a space where he can feel vulnerable. And I think that oftentimes with oppressed folks, marginalized people, there aren't spaces, lots of places where or relationships in which you feel you have the safety to be vulnerable. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this relationship is Ricky finds someone where he can be completely vulnerable about how he feels. And we've never seen this kind of vulnerability from Ricky in the entire series. And I think that finding out about his status and then subsequently Pray Tell offering him the kind of emotional support he's always wanted, it allows him to be vulnerable in a way he's never been.
But then that brings in Damon.
Yes.
I know. It's real messy.
Right? It gets messy.
It's super messy.
But life is messy.
Life is messy.
Life is complicated. Life is messy. We don't live in a world that's pretty packages and wrapping paper and bows. It's messy. It's shopping bags and plastic wrap, you know?
Do you have any hopes and dreams for Damon and Ricky, whether it's romantic or just them getting back to a place where they can be friends?
You know, my hope and dream for Damon and Ricky is that they both can become the people that they're destined to become, whether that means that they are together or they're just friends or they're separate on separate trajectories, whatever it means for them to really become full human beings who can exist in the world healthily and achieve their dreams. That's what I wish for them. I've definitely experienced toxic relationships. I've experienced complicated relationships. And sometimes you can't really grow to appreciate a person until you are apart from them. So, you know, I don't know what the future has for them.
All right, I was hoping for like a little spoiler
You know,
or something.
hope maybe, you never know. In Ryan Murphy's world, anything can happen. So.
So the show obviously tackles some really heavy themes, but the show is also a ton of fun. And the balls this season have been bigger and better than ever. And you really got to put on that like tight little gold slinglet for solid gold and get after it. So what was it like really like inhabiting that solid gold era?
Oh my gosh, that little gold number was not my favorite. I love the costume, but it did not. I felt very exposed in that.
Tight.
It was very tight.
Very tight.
Felt very exposed. You know, it was a lot of fun filming that scene. We got to do a lot of incredible dancing in episode 5. It was so much work. You know, I don't think I've ever worked so hard on any project like dancing, especially. Like, it was a lot of dancing. I danced for 14 hours straight the day we filmed Solid Gold. You know, all dancing, just the three of us, the 3 Solid Gold dancers, and I went home like limping.
What was your dance background before this show? Because it seems like you can do a little bit of everything.
I could do a little bit of everything, yeah. I was in a boy band for about 10 years, and so I had a lot of hip hop training from that. I studied musical theater when I moved to New York at a conservatory, and so there I learned ballet, jazz, modern dance, more hip hop, tap, a little bit of everything, yeah.
So when you auditioned for Pose, was it to be a dancer? What role did you originally go out for?
I originally auditioned for Damon. And so I put myself on tape for the role of Damon, and then I sent in video clips of me dancing, and then they called me in for the screen test with Ryan Murphy, and it was all for Damon. And then I found out that they were going to go in a different direction for that role, but they wanted to write a role for me. And so Ricky was born. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. Does that add any extra pressure for you? You're like, you created this role for me. I better kill it.
No, I mean, it actually it took some of the pressure away, because I felt like with Damon, they had a very clear idea of who this character was. And with Ricky, they didn't have like any real direction because the character wasn't written yet. So, you know, on my first day when I spoke with Stephen Canals, the co-creator of the show, and asked him what, you know, he thought some of Ricky's goals and aspirations were, or what his backstory was, he was more interested in hearing my ideas about that. And so, you know, we began to engage in a dialogue that allowed me to sort of mold and craft Ricky from the very beginning, which was much more exciting for me to do.
So did you put any parts of Dyllón into Ricky?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things that I was interested in portraying is I wanted to see a queer boy who was more like me in terms of presentation. I never really saw the kind of representation for who I thought I was or who I thought I wanted to be on television growing up. All of the boys on TV that kind of looked or acted like me or were interested in some of the things that I was interested in were only interested in girls, in dating girls, or were depicted as such. And all of the boys who were depicted as being interested in boys were not very much like me. And so I was interested in seeing a character that was a lot more like me in presentation. And so that's why Ricky was born and why he's kind of the way that he is.
I mean, that's another conversation with toxic masculinity, which the show really consistently confronts in a lot of different areas, but that is definitely one. Is that something that's important to you, just sort of like breaking down that toxic masculinity that's
Absolutely.
so pervasive?
Absolutely. I think, one of the things about toxic masculinity that is really pervasive that I think affects a lot of men and a lot of queer men too is that it says that to be a man you have to act a certain way. There is, you have to be cold, kind of withholding, never show emotions. You have to be into sports. You have to be a protector and a provider and all these things. And all those things are great. But you can also be that while being emotionally available, while being vulnerable, while loving ballet and the arts and just wanting to wear a dress too, if that's what you want to do. So, I am just really interested in kind of dismantling this idea of a man being just one kind of way and presenting in one kind of way just because of my gender.
Especially in the Black community.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything is just that much more heightened.
Absolutely.
In the Black community and in the Latinx community,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, there's a pressure to uphold sort of these ideas of machismo. There's and those ideas, while very much rooted in toxic masculinity, that it's also the patriarchy and white supremacy that infiltrates our country. And so, it's just a lot of things to break down.
And that's why this show is such an education for so many people, which is why I think it continues to resonate. Yeah. Because you can feel like you've understood a certain narrative and you watch this show and you just get a deeper, more intimate look. And I hope that it's opening up a lot of hearts and minds.
I think so. I think, one thing that it's open, if not hearts and minds, it's open mouths. People have begun to talk more about things that are kind of hot button issues. I even in my own family, we've talked about things that we've never talked about before. We've talked about trans issues. My family, they now ask like, so what am I supposed to say? Is it transgender? Like, what is the terminology? Helping them through that, helping them learn the language, talking about my experience and opening up doors for my family to be interested in what my life is like and who my friends are and who I'm romantically interested in. And so it's really been healing and cathartic for myself and for my family to watch this show week to week. It gives people sort of something that is more removed from their own lives that they can discuss outside of what's actually happening.
It is a beautiful show in so many ways. I mentioned you're a triple threat. So we've talked about the acting and the dancing, but I also hear that you like to sing.
I do.
And so what kind of music are you into?
Yeah, so I'm into all kinds of music. I mean, some of my favorite artists are Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra. I love pop music too. On my way here, we were blasting Robin and Rihanna. So like, if you watch my story, you'll get a little Rihanna. Yeah, so I am currently working on a new music project. Like I said, my career actually started as a musician. I was in a boy band, hip hop and R&B group, and so I sing, I rap, I write, I produce, and I'm working on an EP now that I'm super excited about. It's pop with hip hop and R&B influences, and you'll get a lot more personal stories from me in my life and some of the things that I've been through.
I was gonna say, do you write your own music?
I do.
So right now, what is inspiring you or inspiring some lyrics that you're writing?
Pose is very much inspiring the music that I'm making right now. Just the sounds and the style of the 80s and the 90s have really infiltrated some of the sounds. So that's really, you'll hear a lot of that kind of influence.
And I was gonna ask if we were gonna hear Ricky sing, but we actually did hear you sing a little bit, although it was with a group.
Yes.
On Pose. So any possibility that we'll get like a Ricky solo?
I hope so. We'll find out.
We'll see. We will be watching for that.
We'll see next season, yeah.
All right. Well, before we go, we do have a couple of questions. Who do we have first? Right there.
You did mention that you like to sing, but like as far as music is concerned, like what can we like look forward to, like other than your EP? Like how far do you want to go with it?
That's a good question. For me, music is, it's about, I do it for me. It's my acting work is sort of like the thing that has sort of taken off and is my career thing. Music is about me being able to express myself in a way that just feels authentic and like a natural expression of just what's going on in my world. And it's really for me. So, wherever that goes, I'm open to. But as long as I get to do it for me, that's what's really important.
Of the three, is there one that you're more passionate about, whether it's acting, dancing, or singing, or is it just all sort of?
It just all is kind of coming from, I've always wanted to be a performer. I knew that that's what I was supposed to do from a very young age. And they have all, they're all really important to me. So I don't know that I could pick one like that. It's like picking a child, yeah.
And next question?
Hi, how are you?
How's it going?
Good. So as you mentioned before, Ricky's really been going through it this season, from like not booking dancing jobs, his split with Damon, and his status as well. So I was wondering if you were presented with the opportunity to like add a new storyline for this character and their arc, what would it be?
Wow, that's a really great question, and now you've put me on the spot. A new storyline for this character. I think I would want to see what Ricky would look like battling HIV and being a performer, a dancer, and being openly queer and HIV positive, and in a world in the music industry that's dominated by heterosexual men. I would love to see him sort of navigate that industry while being Black and queer and HIV positive and open about that and thriving in those spaces as well. That's the thing that I would love to see more of in the show for Ricky.
Thank you for your question. Well, Dyllón, it's been so nice chatting with you. Like I said, I really love Pose. I'm so drawn to so many of the characters and the storylines. I think it's one of the most important shows on TV. So thank you for the work that you do every week. It is definitely resonating with audiences.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you guys want to check out Pose, it airs every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. on FX. Please put your hands together for Dyllón Burnside.
Thank you.